Gopijanvalabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Rajajandaranjana Sodanandana Rajajandaranjana Yamuna Dhiro Chari Yamuna Dhiro Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Bhajajanarandana Sodanandana Bhajajanarandana Yamuna Dhira Vanachari Yamuna Dhira Vanachari Dhira Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Agana Timidandasha Ginanjana Sharakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Si Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vidantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Mitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakapa Chubascha Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayet Nastapreshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavad Utama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Today, February 13th, 2025, Thursday, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 26. King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt, and his queen becomes angry. A very interesting chapter. Today we're going to focus in on text number 17. Rama Uchuhu Naranata na janimas Tatpriya yad vyavasyati Bhutale nirvavashtare Gayanam pasya shatruhan Rama Uchuhu Naranata na janimas Tatpriya yad vyavasyati Bhutale niravashtare Shayanam pasya shatruhan Rama Uchuhu Naranata na janimas Tatpriya yad vyavasyati Bhutale niravashtare Shayanam pasya shatruhan
Rama Uchuhu
Naranata na janimas Tatpriya yad vyavasyati Bhutale niravashtare Shayanam pasya shatruhan Rama Uchuhu Naranata na janimas Tatpriya yad vyavasyati Bhutale niravashtare Shayanam pasya shatruhan. Word for word, please repeat. Rama Uchuhu. The women thus spoke. Naranata, O king. Najanima, we do not know. But Priya, your beloved. Yat Vyavashati, why she has taken to this sort of life. Bhutale, on the ground. Niravashtare, without bedding. Shayanam, lying down. Pasha, look. Shatruhan, O killer of enemies. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. All the women addressed the king. O master of the citizens, we do not know why your dear wife has taken on this sort of existence. O killer of the enemies, kindly look. She is lying on the ground without bedding. We cannot understand why she is acting in this way. We cannot understand why she is acting this way. Okay, please repeat. All the women address the king.
All the women address the king.
O master of the citizens.
O master of the citizens.
We do not know why your dear wife
We do not know why your dear wife
has taken on this sort of existence.
has taken on this sort of existence.
O killer of enemies.
O killer of enemies.
Kindly look.
Kindly look.
She is lying on the ground without bedding.
She is lying on the ground without bedding.
We cannot understand why she is acting this way.
We cannot understand why she is acting this way.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When a person is devoid of devotional service or Vishnu Bhakti, he takes to many sinful activities. King Puranjana left home, neglected his own wife, and engaged himself in killing animals. This is the position of all materialistic men. They do not care for a married, chaste wife. They take the wife only as an instrument for sense enjoyment, not as a means for devotional service. To have unrestricted sex life, the karmis work very hard. They have concluded that the best course is to have sex with any woman and simply pay the price for her, as though she were a mercantile commodity. Thus they engage their energy in working very hard for such material acquisitions. Such materialistic people have lost their good intelligence. They must search out their intelligence within the heart. A person who does not have a chaste wife accepted by religious principles always has a bewildered intelligence. The wife of King Puranjana was lying on the ground because she was neglected by her husband. Actually, the woman must always be protected by her husband. We always speak of the goddess of fortune as being placed on the chest of Narayana. In other words, the wife must remain embraced by her husband. Thus she becomes beloved and well protected. Just as one saves his money and places it under his own personal protection, one should similarly protect his wife by his own personal supervision. Just as intelligence is always within the heart, so a beloved, chaste wife should always have her place on the chest of her good husband. This is the proper relationship between husband and wife. A wife is therefore called ardhangani, or half of the body. One cannot remain with only one leg, one hand, or only one side of the body. He must have two sides. Similarly, according to nature's way, husband and wife should live together. In the lower species of life, among birds and animals, it is seen that by nature's arrangement, the husband and wife live together. It is similarly ideal in human life for the husband and wife to live together. The home should be a place for devotional service, and the wife should be chaste and accepted by a ritualistic ceremony. In this way, one can become happy at home. Everyone wants to become happy at home, right? Or not. We shall discuss. Rama uchuhu naranata najanimas tat priya yad vyavashati bhutale niravashare shayanam pasya shatruham. All the women addressed the king, "O master of the citizens, we do not know why your dear wife has taken on this sort of existence. O killer of enemies, kindly look. She is lying on the ground without bedding. We cannot understand why she is acting in this way." Mukum karoti bachalam pangam lagayate girim jajkripa tamaham bande Sri Guru Madinatarinam. So, Srila Prabhupada is giving this understanding of the proper relationship of husband and wife, and giving some of the principles, and with perhaps an expectation that this is the way everyone should live their life. Except for everyone has a different conception than this in the world, in the contemporary world. And no one is accepting the Krishna conscious and Vedic paradigm for living. But it is a very practical matter, applying these principles that Prabhupada is explaining here. But Krishna makes the point very nicely in the 4th chapter of the Gita that yagyartat karma no nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha dardartam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. That work has to be done in this material world as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Again, this is not something that has captured the popular imagination of the praja, or the citizens of the world, the citizens of planet Earth, which is Bhumi Loka, the planet of Mother Bhumi. And because of people not accepting this principle, then there is so much difficulty. And especially in the Kali Yuga, this becomes magnified. And as we can see from the recent events of the world, the election of a new president, that now Kali is stepping up his game. And that's what happens when you have someone, a leader who is not Krishna conscious, then are not even like just a regular decent human being, who's someone who's guided by lust and anger and greed and exhibits that to a very pointed degree, so much so that every devotee is seeing, the descriptions of the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the divine and demoniac natures, come to life. It is Bhagavad Gita in real life. The description of the character of the demoniac person. And we all know the verses so well. So much wealth is mine today, so much more will I have tomorrow. He is my enemy and I have conquered him. I have killed him. And this is my other enemy and I have killed him. And this way I surround myself with my friends and my family and create government positions for them, and then want to kick out all the other government people and put the friends and the cronies in the... This is the demoniac way. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in this way the demon thinks, in this way I have become perfect, powerful, and happy. And I will enjoy, as if I were God and everyone were my servant, meant to carry out my plans in life, with me as the center. So that's the case in the Kali Yuga, where people, natevatu swarta gatim hi Vishnum, Prahlad Maharaj says. Natevatu, that people don't know. Swarta gatim hi Vishnum, that the real goal of life, or the real swarta, the real swa means the self and arta means interest. So the real self-interest or benefit, what is the ultimate benefit that one should work towards in his life? Well, they don't know. Natevadu swarta gatim hi Vishnum, that service to the Lord, that is what is in one's real self-interest. That is the real benefit in one's life, is to engage in service of the Lord. Yagyartat karma no nyatra. That work as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Loko yam karma bandhana. Otherwise, all the work that people do in the world, it creates difficulty. It creates bondage to fruitive action and reaction. And what is the result of that bondage? performing fruitive activities and trying to enjoy the results and getting good results and ignominious results also. And then one has to accept the karma that comes with that, the resultant reactions. So work is action, and then from that work comes reaction. And that action and reaction is not a pleasant or beautiful thing, as people think. There was this one song, everything is beautiful. Well, wake up. If you're working to enjoy your senses and thinking that you're this body, then you're accruing so much reaction. And in order to fulfill that reaction, you have to take another birth. So there's the problem right there. That's the whole problem right there. You have to suffer in this life in so many ways, and then you have to take another birth. And that birth may be good, that birth may not be so good, depending on what you've done in this life. Therefore, in the Vedic culture, people are trained up to understand this philosophy, and even those who are karmis or working for fruitive activities, they do not want to perform any sinful activity. They are very attentive that they want to only work in a pious way to get good reactions, and ultimately they would like to get elevated to the heavenly planets. So they want all the good and none of the bad. But in order to achieve that type of progressive course in life, they are very alert and attentive not to engage in sinful activities. And you compare and contrast that with the modern, quote, civilization that we see in the world today. And no one cares a flip whether or not they're doing something right or doing something wrong. They don't care if it's right. They don't care if it's wrong. As a matter of fact, it even goes so far as to the wronger, the better. And they relish that. And then we see this consciousness current throughout music, art, entertainment, cinema, literature. It's a case of bring it on. And here's something you shouldn't do, but if you indulge in this, then you can enjoy your senses. They say, get you some of that, right? Get you some of that, man. There was one instance when the devotees were out in Harinam in Venice Beach, and Vyasaki was there leading the Harinam, and they were having a very ecstatic Harinams, and devotees were dancing. And then one lady approached one of the devotees, and she said, I don't know what kind of drug you are taking to make you so happy, but can I get some? Can I get me some of that? Well, yes, you can, but you have to give up sense gratification. But if you chant the holy name of the Lord properly, then you will give up your sense gratification. And then you can get that real happiness that you are seeking. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? That shushukam kartabhavayam, that understanding this king of knowledge has different effects and results, and one of them is shushukam, that you become very happy. Kartamavayam, actually you become eternally happy. Your happiness knows no limits, no bounds. He also speaks of that, of the yogi who is tasting the happiness within of his relationship with God. He experiences boundless joy, and he thinks that there is no greater gain than this. And you can contrast that with the sense gratifier, who is tasting what he thinks is to be the nectar, but who is actually the poison of sense gratification. And he is thinking, oh, there's no greater happiness than this. This is the greatest happiness. But the result is No, it's not susukam kartavyavyam. It's not boundless. It doesn't continue forever. That so-called happiness is temporary, and it turns into real misery. But the people don't know this. Lokasya janato vidvangs, chakre satvata samhitam. And therefore, Srila Vyasadeva, after consulting with Narada Muni, he was wondering, first of all, why am I feeling despondent? I've compiled all the Vedas, and I've done everything properly, and I've given good instruction, and I've disseminated this knowledge, but I'm feeling, I don't know, I'm feeling incomplete. I'm feeling dissatisfied with everything. Like, what's wrong with me? And as he was pondering his existential conundrum, why am I not feeling satisfaction? I should be. Then Narada Muni appeared at his cottage, and Narada Muni is his spiritual master, of course. And then Narada Muni chastised him a little bit. He said, "Are you satisfied that you have given instructions to people that encourage them to engage in sense gratification in the name of religion? Are you satisfied with identifying the body and the mind as objects of self-realization? Is that perhaps why you're feeling incomplete?" And Vyasadeva was like, okay, I think I'm beginning to get it. And then Narada Muni tells him that you have not sufficiently glorified the Supreme Lord. And if you do that, then you will feel the complete happiness and satisfaction that you know is your natural position. So therefore, Vyasadeva, this is like one fly comes every Thursday when I'm giving class, same one. He like knows, here's the Vyasa-san, and this is where to go. Everything is there, the microphone, the computer, the human. So, so Vyasadeva took those words to heart of Sri Narada Muni, after all, his spiritual master, and one of the greatest spiritual masters of all time, who is glorified throughout the Vedas for his many adventures in preaching and his many wonderful disciples. And so Vyasadeva went into a meditation, a deep meditation. Of course, we know that Srila Vyasadeva, he is the empowered literary incarnation of Krishna. And he is Shakti Avesh avatar. So he has that Avesh, that potency, that Shakti coming from Krishna, just like an incarnation. That's called Shakti Avesh avatar, an empowered incarnation. A jiva, but empowered. So he was fully empowered to explicate and disseminate the Vedas, the Vedic knowledge, which he did through his many disciples. He divided the Vedas into different branches and gave different areas of the Vedas to different disciples to study, perfect, and disseminate amongst their disciples in due course of time. So we can only imagine what is the profundity of the deep meditation of Srila Vyasadeva. It's not like you or I sitting down thinking, what do I need to buy at the grocery store today? And go into a deep meditation. Do I need raisins? And do I need yogurt? Not like that. Not that kind of deep meditation. What can I get to satisfy my tongue? Of course, with devotees, what can I get to satisfy Krishna? What can I offer to Krishna in a nice way? If one is thinking like that, what can I do to satisfy Krishna? Then that is a good meditation, no doubt. That is pleasing to Krishna. And then when you please Krishna, then naturally you are pleased. That's actually the secret of devotional service. Ordinarily, people think, what can I do to please myself? But in order to satisfy the self, one has to satisfy the Supreme Self. Everyone is a soul, but the soul of all souls, the supreme soul, the source of all souls, when one offers one's endeavors, one's meditation, one's activities to the service of the Supreme in order to satisfy the Supreme, then one automatically becomes satisfied. It's like real selfishness is actually selflessness. That's the secret to devotional service. Of course, we don't serve Krishna because we think, let me please myself. We serve Krishna because we think, what can I do to serve Krishna, the Supreme Lord? He's given me everything. He's given us this world, these bodies, these senses. He's given us his instructions in Bhagavad Gita. He's given us his devotees who give us further instructions. He's performed his pastimes to attract us back to him. He's done so many wonderful things for us. What can I do to satisfy him? Instead of thinking, what can I do to satisfy myself? But that is the drive of every ordinary person who is not privileged to understand the science of bhakti. How can I please my senses and my mind? Because of misidentifying the self as the senses and the body and the mind. But those are not the real self. The real self is the servant of Krishna. But when that servant of Krishna forgets his position, then he falls under the grip of Maya, the illusory energy. And he's only thinking, how can I please myself? And if you've ever been around somebody who has like a real royal case of wanting to please themselves at the cost of anyone and everything else, then you know that's an obnoxious person to be around. They just want to please themselves. They don't give a fig for anybody else. Wow, what a selfish person. What a drag. What a bummer to be around that person, right? Somebody who's very crafty and manipulative and always trying to please themselves and does not hesitate to step on the head of the person next to them in order to get what they want. Nobody likes such a person. Such a person never has a lot of friends. Or if they do have friends, the friends are all just like that too. They form like a rascal society, international society for rascal consciousness. We're all in it together because we're all trying to please ourselves, and we have that in common, and that is our greatness. We recognize that as the true meaning of existence. So that's the International Society of Rascal Consciousness. Of course, one devotee, he became a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But he was always criticizing everything and everyone in the Krishna Conscious movement. And then he finally realized, I joined the wrong movement. I thought it was the International Society for Critical Consciousness. Oops, I'm in the wrong place here. He could not give up that. So if you want to become happy, if you want to become pleased, then you have to learn the art and the science of learning how to please Krishna, how to satisfy Krishna. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is giving us. That is the business of the spiritual master, to teach this great science. And it's exactly what Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. So when we learn this art of how to please Krishna, and we're no longer greedily trying to accrue sense gratification in its different forms for ourselves, for our material selves, then we can truly become happy and free from the all-pervasive anxiety that is part and parcel of being an illusion and thinking I am this body and everything in relation to this body is mine. That's called aham mameti. So when one is on the platform of aham mameti, it is me, it is mine, it is for me only. And then George Harrison, when the Beatles were breaking up and everyone was jockeying for position and control of the direction of the band and the finances and the publicity and all these different things. And he wrote that song, I, Me, Mine. I, Me, Mine, I, Me, Mine, I, Me, Mine. Everyone is in the consciousness that it's all for me and let me grab what I can. When I was a kid, they used to have this one beer commercial, Schlitz beer. And so the announcer comes on in a big, bold voice, and there's like a sailboat with some tough guys, you know, clipper ship with the big sails and big macho guys. And then the announcer says, you only go around once in life. First of all, it's completely wrong. You go around and around and around and around and around. They're saying you only go around once, it means you live and then you die and then you're finished. Wrong. They have not understood anything about transcendental knowledge. So you only go around once in life. You have to grab for all the gusto you can. What is this gusto? This is such a funny, I mean, even as a kid, it struck me as like, that's weird. What is gusto? You know, what they're saying is lusto. You have to get all the sense gratification you want, which Prabhupada refers to in this verse, that the man just wants to enjoy every woman and just treat her like a mercantile commodity. I pay for what I pay for what I enjoy, you know. Let me just get that, and I can get it anywhere and everywhere. I used to work when I was a teenager. I worked at this apartment complex, and it was a huge apartment complex. It had like 8 swimming pools, and I was like the pool boy. But they also trained me up in the office on the weekend to like, and they had an office center, people come pay their rent, especially in those days, people would come pay in cash. And they had a big old clunky cash register. You press down the buttons and the thing would pop up on the top. Very non-digital, very analog. And the boss was a fellow named Mr. Brown. And Mr. Brown would always say at the end of the day, day, another dollar. And he was, one time it was kind of slow, and he was telling about this one fellow. He knew this one fellow, that this fellow would never miss an opportunity to have sex with a woman, any woman that he met, and he was always eager in seeking that opportunity, and he was getting many opportunities, and he never turned down any woman, regardless if maybe she was ugly or she was, you know, not very desirable in this way or that way, not very intelligent. He didn't care. He just wanted to enjoy every single woman he ever met. And so Mr. Brown was telling us about this guy, and I thought, how did I end up in the association of these people? You know, I was just trying to make a little money and keep my car running and pay a little rent. And here I am, these weird people given this completely strange philosophy of life. And he was glorifying this fellow, actually. And I was thinking, man, what a loser. These people are a bunch of, I was ready to take to Krishna consciousness, although I didn't know it at the time. I was waiting for Krishna consciousness to come along and save me from such association. And there was another guy, George, the maintenance guy. You know, he was all crusty and rare, you know, kind of down on everything and everybody, real negative kind of. Like, what happened to my life? Why am I with these people? These people are so undesirable. Another thing happened to me too. This all led up to me gratefully accepting Krishna consciousness. My mother knew a lady who gave a job to this girl that came from New York, and she had a construction company. And so she said, well, I can get you a job, you know, in their asphalt paving crew. And I said, well, okay, let me try it out. So I go there, you know, like 6 o'clock in the morning, not knowing what to expect. You know, I very quickly wished I'd had a pair of gloves. The job was shovel boy on the asphalt paving crew. And the asphalt, they pour it from a truck into these like machine that spreads it out, and then you go with the shovels and things, and there's a guy that drives a roller over it, and it's a whole thing, but it's very hot. And it was in Texas, which is also very hot. And then the guys on the crew, they were like always talking about sex. Just real low-class bunch of, working class guys, real blue collar, real dirty with the black asphalt. And I realized on that crew that because these guys were working in the heat with this hot asphalt, and when they spread the asphalt, then you have to tamp it down, and the heat's coming. I realized that all their brains had been cooked, and they had no brains and they had no intelligence left. And I was astounded, like, this is not for me. I don't want to cook my brains. And people, of course, are cooking their brains in different ways. They're cooking it by marinating it in alcohol, or working on the asphalt crew, or smoking this, or shooting that, or, in so many ways, people are cooking their brains and destroying their intelligence. And then, the guys in the crew are talking about how they wanted to have sex with the lady who owned the company, who was like in her 50s, and these guys were all in their 20s. And it was just like, man, these people are just a bunch of weirdos. Their brains are cooked. That's what it is. This hot asphalt, their brains are cooked, and it's cooked, and it dried out, and there's no brain left. And this is not for me. And my mother said, how come you only worked one day on that crew? I said, well, I don't have to tell you, but you want to go try it yourself, you'll see. So in this way, these different experiences of the futility of material life were like really striking home to me. And it made me realize, this is not what I want to do with my life. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be like this rascal that's always trying to get every woman he can, or like these guys with hooked brains that just, their conversation, their language is very crude and rude, and they have no higher sentiments or sympathies like a civilized person should. And when you get an education and you read books, and you hear the philosophy in human society, then you don't want to be just like a dog in the street and living and acting like that. It is very unattractive. There must be something better. There must be something better. Or like the Animals had a song, we got to get out of this place. It's the last thing we ever do. Gunnar Maharaj was in a band that played that song in Buffalo, New York, when he met the devotees. And later we encountered a guy who was a salesman at the music store, and he had the Krishna Fest group, and he needed musical equipment. And we would go to the music store, and they were very friendly with the devotees there. We were actually, Temple was a good customer, and we had, tax exempt and everything because we're a nonprofit organization. And I knew all those guys. And one of the guys recognized Gunnar Maharaj from being in that band back in Buffalo. This was in the 1980s, and he had remembered him from the 1960s. When the Krishna conscious movement started, Rupanuga had a center there in Buffalo, and he made many wonderful devotees came from that program, including Gunnar Maharaj, and B.B. Govindaswamy came from that program, and Trivakram Maharaj, Praladananda Swami, yes, many wonderful devotees came from that program there at State University of New York, Buffalo. So anyway, Gunnar Maharaj had that band, and they played that song, and then this guy came up to him, and he asked like these riddle questions to him, and then they were all about him being in that band, and then Gunnar Maharaj remembered. He said, "Were you in Buffalo?" I said, "Yes, I remember you, George, from Buffalo, and your band. You played that song, and you guys did the best version. We gotta get out of this place." So, an intelligent person naturally wants to understand there's got to be something better than this. And there was another beer commercial, I'm trying to remember, that said, again, it's one of those macho things, the guys like on the boat, living life to the fullest, and they're drinking the beer, and it says, doesn't get any better than this. That's right, because you're doing that, where you're going is way down. It doesn't get any better. It gets worse. They're saying it doesn't get any better than this because this you've achieved the ultimate. You've got the beer. You've got the boat. You're a self-made. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. He's saying I've achieved, masculine greatness, and I've got the beer, and there's nothing greater than this. Well, for you, that's true, because from here on in, you're just going to accept so many sinful reactions, and you're going to go down. The people are acting because they don't know that they're real self-interest. Swartagatim hi Vishnu, we mentioned earlier. They're like the blind, being led by other blind people who are telling them that you only go around once in life, you got to get all the sense gratification. When you get it, then there's nothing better than that. And they're like, okay, and they're eating it up. Yeah. This is for me. This is what I want to do. But then they become tightly bound by the ropes of the gunas of material nature, which are compared to ropes. Means like ropes that are tightly bound around the waist, like they're tied up. Have you ever been tied up? Hand and foot, and you can't move, like arrested, by the other tribe, and they tie you to a tree, and then they want to torture you to get some information out of you. It's like from some movie. Like that's what happens. When you accept you think that what's external is artamaninaha. You think that's the best thing. That's for me. But no, it's actually the worst thing for you. So it doesn't, in sad conclusion, it doesn't get any better. They've achieved their pinnacle of sense gratification, and then from there, it's just more suffering. And that's it. And again, they go through the cycle of birth and death, unless they meet a spiritual master and hear this real knowledge from him. And then they can, Prabhupada says, see a new light, take a new direction, and change the course of their existence after suffering for so long in this material world, and learn that the real self-interest is to serve the Supreme Self and go back home, back to Godhead. Like Damodar said to me recently, he was talking about, I forget what we were talking about, devotees who were doing weird things, this and that, and then they give up their Krishna consciousness. Remember we were talking about that in Hawaii? And then Damodar said to me, and it's such a poignant way, it really stuck with me. He said, Divya and I, we want to go back to Godhead. We want to keep our Krishna consciousness intact and progressive and live our lives in such a way that we don't just fall back into the ocean of suffering. So, inspiring words from our Damodar. We just want to go back to Godhead. That's, we've had enough of this. All right, so we'll stop here. We've gone a little past our time. Questions or comments? Realizations? Okay, then. You don't have to take the mic around. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.